You know, with coyotes, there's a whole bunch you can talk about. They're clever creatures, they're bright creatures.
The way people view carnivores varies across the landscape, and it's really different in urban environments compared to rural environments.
The work we do actually is now being utilized internationally. It does get spread everywhere, coast to coast, north to south across the U.S.
So this field station focuses on predators and human-wildlife conflict that involves large carnivores. This includes everything from polar bears and grizzly bears down to small swift and kit foxes and everything in between. Our field station is part of National Wildlife Research Center, which is the research branch of Wildlife Services under USDA.
Carnivores cause damage to a variety of different human interests. They can cause either monetary damage or an aesthetic damage, or threaten populations of either other carnivores or prey populations. So the need to research that, to understand and mitigate those problems, is our focus here at the Logan Station.
The Utah Field Station traditionally has focused on agricultural issues associated with predators. And recently, there's been more opportunity to do work in urban situations. Our reach in terms of research has expanded into these urban systems to help address some of those conflict issues.
What's really nice about this facility is for research, there's many opportunities and different types of pens to perform studies.
We have at least 100 adult coyotes kept here in captivity. They're kept as mated pairs throughout their life. They're born here and raised here. It's all coyotes except for the occasional black bear. We rehabilitate orphan cubs. They stay here until hunting season's over in the fall, and then they get released back out into the wild.
Products that have come out of the Logan Field Station have been testing, development, and evaluation of many non-lethal tools. Development of different capture technologies, either through snares or traps, modifications of those that wildlife services specialists brought to us and said, hey, you know, I've got this idea, can we evaluate it? Can you do the testing for us? And so we would take those tools and test those within the captive facility, and then be able to provide those tools back to the specialist with some idea of the efficacy of those.
A lot of times we do studies that are on behavior and ecology, and that may not seem related to the problems of conflict, but they are, because the more we know about how these animals behave and how their population dynamics work, the more we can use that in creating these tools and technology. Flagery is something that was developed a long time ago. It's just a long string of red flags hanging off a rope, and it's scary to canids. It prevents them from crossing a barrier. So we use it around things like lambing pens and calving pens to keep canids out. It works really well for wolves, especially with what we call turboflagery, which means that it's electrified. However, coyotes can sometimes slip between the flags. So we're actually trying to look at different types of flagery design to prevent the coyotes from getting through it. We've been doing a livestock guard dog study for close to 5 years now. They've been used to protect sheep from coyotes, but then wolves came back. And a lot of the producers were saying that guard dogs weren't being effective against wolves or even in grizzly bears. And so we shipped in some breeds from Europe. These breeds are larger than the ones used in the United States right now, and they're more bold towards predators. We just placed these dogs with producers and looked at how they did with their sheep so that we could see if some breeds were performing in ways that would be more effective at protecting sheep.
The health and well-being of our animals is integral to the quality of research we produce. My job is to make sure that these animals are healthy and as stress-free as they can be.
Behavioral enrichment or environmental enrichment is a way that animal caretakers can provide opportunities for these animals in captivity. It's a way to provide a stimulus, both physical and mental stimulus, and to try to promote more natural behavior. There are many different categories of enrichment, and it ranges from throwing novel objects out to them or altering the physical features of their enclosures.
So the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, every research facility has one. What that committee does is it reviews the animals that are housed in captivity and then study protocols and designs for animal welfare issues. We do inspections, we do a walkthrough. Is everything clean? Is everything dated? How do the animals look? How do their enclosures look? Are they receiving enrichment? You know, for people who love animals, we're very fortunate. We have the time and the resources to take care of these animals and cater to their individual needs.
The most challenging part of working on carnivores is that you have a lot of people that love carnivores and you have a lot of people that hate carnivores. And trying to bring science to these issues so that they can at least be informed of what the science actually says, and rather than just kind of hearsay or myths or misconceptions that often pervade carnivore research.
We collaborate with all sorts of groups of people. One of our main stakeholders is obviously the livestock industry, and so we try to collaborate with people in that industry as much as possible. A lot of times that's through our parent organization, Wildlife Services, working with specialists directly or state directors. We work with universities. So for instance, here, myself and one other research scientist have faculty positions at Utah State University. So that allows us to work directly with universities and graduate students. We also work with a lot of other agencies, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Department of Defense, other federal agencies like that, and then agencies outside of the federal government. We work with Natural Resource Defense Council and other nonprofits like Defenders of Wildlife. Preventing depredation on livestock is important because economically it's like a small margin that these ranchers have as far as being profitable and being able to stay in business and not being profitable and perhaps having to sell their ranch. And these large landscapes that most of the ranchers and producers work on actually are beneficial to predators too. And by having tools that can keep those ranchers economically viable, we're protecting those large landscapes that they work on.
To be successful for our operations, it's to learn as much as we can about coyotes. And they've been doing it for almost 45 years here, and yet they're still coming up with questions to learn about the subtleties of these animals.